webcam. Should women have the choice, Steve?
Oh, of course they could. The most important point is women tend to be less attached to the labour market, so they lose their jobs in a recession. They preferentially work in service and public sectors and in part-time and low-grade jobs. And there are two fundamental underlying reasons for that. Women's preferences. Catherine Hakim, leading expert of women in the workplace, she points out that overall only 10 to 15% of women choose or would prefer to work full-time and continuously like men. Only a quarter of those are careerists. That's less than 5%. Most women want at most to work a job that is part-time, that fits with their home and social life. And below all that, there are fundamental differences between the sexes in motivation. A man without a job basically has no life, effectively. Women choose men with status. And in our world, obviously, that means job and money.
Steve, there are some sighs and shaking of the head in the studio here. Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, men should be more emotionally connected. They should actually be encouraged to show their emotions, be basically part of the family. I'm all about 50-50, and I think it should be a compromise between basically what you want individually and not all about being one way all one way.
Yeah, I think the reason why so few women go back to work, and Hakim has been ridiculously, I mean, she's discredited as an academic in terms of her work.
Hang on, but she's not here to defend herself, so we need to be careful about what we say about an individual who can't talk for themselves.
It's just utter nonsense to suggest that women just would choose to be at home if they can't afford it, for one thing. Everything is made difficult for women in terms of returning to the workplace. We have not got any state-controlled childcare to speak of. That's why we're talking about, for middle-class women, nannies from Eastern Europe. Most working-class women, in fact, no working-class women I know, can afford it. And all the working-class women that I know cannot afford not to go back to work. It's an utterly ridiculous idea that we're even asking the question, should women have the right to choose? We're not infants, we're not living under apartheid. This is an equal and open society.
It's not Victorian times.
You mentioned an individual, and as I say, I ask you not to cast aspersions over the professional life of people who aren't here to defend themselves, because that would be unfair. But isn't there a valid point being made in that research that Steve has mentioned, that a lot of women simply would choose to be at home but feel they have to work, either because of society pressure or economic pressure?
It's utterly ridiculous to suggest that one person can actually present a group of statistics that speaks for all women and the entire labour market in this country.
But that's what surveys and research does.
We have actually moved on from talking about whether or not women should be allowed to go to work. What we've done is we've made it almost impossible for the majority of women, unless you're talking about very privileged women, to go back to work and to rely on their partner to do their half of the childcare.
I mean, that's the economic argument, but the problem here as well is that we've also basically devalued motherhood, and we have got a situation. My wife is a very clever woman. She's got a first, she's also got an MA, she's now going back to do a teaching course because our kids are now 18 and 16. We were lucky with the economic wherewithal, we made an equal decision. It wasn't me chaining her to the kitchen sink, and if she was here and you made that assertion, she'd have you for breakfast. The bottom line is this. No, the bottom line is that women, we have devalued motherhood in our society. We should create tax breaks to have back the idea of a proper family, which I'm afraid is a man and a woman married, bringing up their children
in your world,
together.
John, but not for many people.
40% of people, when people thought like that,
40% of adults over 30 don't live in a nuclear family.
They got married before they had children. Remember that old-fashioned thing, that idea of bringing up your family, giving them security.
Many women choose not to have children.
Let's speak to Judith Webb, who's been employed full-time.
Well, they can if they want, like you.
Hang on,
you don't want to have children, that's fine.
Let's get some more expert testimony on this. Judith Webb. Former major there, it says Royal Signals, you've been employed full-time, raised your children at the same time. Do the kids lose out?
Not at all. I mean, my children, I really feel, have benefited from the fact that I've always been a working mum. It's very true that I was lucky to be able to combine motherhood with a full-time career after I'd left the army. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that in the army, but I became a headmistress. And the fact that I was always an independent, free-thinking person, we have fantastic discussions, debates and arguments at home, encouraging my children to be free-thinking. I'm not the stay-at-home mum. They've often had to do their own washing, and they certainly don't have anybody rushing around after tidying up. Not anything which I think is a priority. Right?
Yeah.
Communication with one's children is the most important thing at all levels.
Okay. John, it encourages independence from the children.
What does?
Judith was saying when she went out to work, it provided them
Did
with
her children go to boarding school like a lot of forces kids, or were they in a school, in a day school?
They went to boarding school later.
Well, there
on,
you
but
go
that was
then.
after
End of argument, isn't
but
it?
hang on.
End of argument. That's how you managed to do the balance. You sent them off to boarding school.
They
Come
went to
on,
boarding
that's your
school.
argument over.
John, let Judith finish her point.
Ridiculous.
Okay.
Well, you've got a guest on who put her children in boarding school, and she's tried to tell me she was a mother at home with them.
Let me speak. They didn't go to boarding school until they were 13. And that's not for my benefit, that was for their benefit. And I feel that they gave a huge amount. When they were very small, I still worked. I actually have never not been full-time employed.
Yeah.
Didn't look out. I was lucky to complain it because
Judith, I have to interrupt, and not because
That's a
I want to
shame.
stop you making a point, because as John says, it is a shame that unfortunately
It would have been a good argument.
the sound quality
You'd have
didn't
loved
go
it
to
too.
boarding school until they were 13. I mean, nobody's suggesting that these children stay at home
All I'm
and
trying to say-
are on their own,
What I'm
John.
trying to say, Susanna, is if we valued motherhood and if we got back to a situation where there were tax breaks so that the dad could go out to work if he wanted, or as I said earlier, there are many stay-at-home dads now who do that as well.
Tiny
All I'm saying
percentage.
is, as a society, it was better when we had that.
Okay,
I don't
but
recall
John,
the
you've made that
riots
point
happening.
very clearly, and I
don't
want
recall the
to, I
riots
just want to
happening
ask
then, do you?
Andrew, you work with a lot of women, presumably, who
Yeah, since
are
I was 8
mums.
years old. I mean, I've been around women all my life, and a lot of them ran dance schools or had other stuff going on. And you know, I mean,
If all those women, if all those working mums were taken out of the workforce, what kind of place would it be like?
boring. That's one
Of
word,
course it
boring.
would be.
It'd be absolutely boring. It'd be
course it
awful.
would be.
I think it's, you know,
No one's saying that, are they?
Hang on, John.
Life is colourful when you've got lots of different things going on, and I think, you know, it's a good reason to get out of bed in the morning. You know, go and see, you're going to talk to women about things that maybe you wouldn't talk to your best mate about, and vice versa. So
How many children
it's
you got,
social-
Andrew?
None.
The point is, it's
Choice.
bad. It's actually bad.
I'm just asking the question. Well, because you haven't got a
bad for
family, have
women.
you?
None I know about.
It's bad for
When you bring
women,
up
and if
children,
women
you
are
might change your
unhappy,
opinion.
it's bad for their children. I mean, these are a very small group of extremely privileged women who can afford to be at home.
Yeah.
Very.
No, I
and
accept
in
that.
fact, often I
accept
would
that.
really rather not go to work and take my dog out for a walk, play with the cats, that kind of thing.
Oh, is that all
but I
women do
can't
when they're
afford
at home,
to.
is it?
I can't afford
That's a very
to.
demeaning
So I
thing to
work.
say.
The point is that many women, because motherhood is so difficult if they don't have as much support as they should have from the father or from their partner, whoever they are, then they obviously want to stay at home because they're exhausted and because it's difficult for them to get back into the workplace. Many women don't get proper maternity benefits. This is an issue about class.
No, I accept that.
And I'm sorry
I accept
that you
that.
haven't had a working class woman on who can't afford not to go out to work telling her story, because there are legions of them.
Okay, well, if you are, you can get in touch with the programme and you can continue discussing that issue on